Welcome back, traders, for another backtesting session as we're working our way through 2024. Now, if you enjoy this kind of series, make sure to like this video and subscribe, and let's go ahead and jump into the charts. So last week, didn't have a good week. We ended up with a red week, but as you can see, the higher time frame idea did play out. We did go up above this high, went into this weekly fair value gap. Now that we've hit our higher time frame goal, what's going to happen? Are we going to, come back down into maybe some of this inefficiency here, perhaps into this fair value gap, which I'm going to change to orange because if it does come down here, I'm expecting this to be an inversion fair value gap. And I'm going to go ahead and adjust this to the daily. I think it was hooked onto a 4-hour. We do have a fair value gap down below here, but I don't really think it's relevant. I want to pay attention to this daily fair value gap. So we could be coming down here. Or are we going to be trading above this fair value gap and then using the weekly as inversion? Also know we do have a daily fair value gap here as well. So a little bit questionable on what is going to happen. So going into this week, I kind of want to have a neutral bias, kind of just, work on the small ranges and not really look for any big expanding ideas. Okay, so this week's backtesting will cover September 23rd to the 24th. We are in Monday morning right now on the 1-hour chart. So last week I made a big deal about these relative equal lows. I can see that there's a lot of sell side down here, and just below it you can see this orange is going to be that daily inversion fair value gap that I was looking for. So I'm looking for price to come down into this daily inversion fair value gap. I think that is the favored direction that I'm looking for. Starting off this week, we can see consolidation at the low of this weekly SIBI. This can completely turn around if we start trading above this weekly SIBI, and then the sell side down here I won't even pay attention to. But we also have a 1-hour BISC down here. This could be a good stopping point once we start, if we're starting to head down anyways. We also have this swing low down here, which I'll mark out. And you can see, Monday morning pre-market, we pretty much just went back down here. We closed below this fair value gap, and now perhaps using it as inversion, using the low of that weekly fair value gap. But again, like I said, I don't want to be really leaning too heavily in one direction or the other. So I'm going to try to stay neutral and see on the lower time frame and what I can do and work off of a smaller range. All right, so 9:30, you can see pre-market, we did go up above the highs up here. Didn't take out those, but we pretty much just tapped once again into the weekly SIBI. And now we have a fair value gap. We worked into the fair value gap, and at 9:30, we are starting to displace lower. But this displacement is not quite, convincing enough for me. If we go back up to the 15-minute, we could just be going down, below this low, and then we may still go up higher. So just going to keep waiting to see what's going on. We could, again, take out the high of the day and work into this fair value gap. We do have relative equal highs here, so we could be aiming for those as well. I think it's kind of a 50-50 shot on whether we want to go down here for this swing low or if we want to go up for these relative equal highs. So just going to give it a little bit more time, wait for the price to actually tell me where it wants to go. All right, so as you can see, it is 11 o'clock. The first hour and a half in the marketplace was very, very choppy. You can see all this up and down move. If I just zoom in, you can see how bad this really was. Anybody trading here, I guarantee they're getting chopped up. But we finally have potentially a fair value gap here. Now, because of all this choppiness, this first fair value gap, I'm not really convinced it's going to work out. It could, if you look at the buy side, we took out the buy side here, took out the buy side here, took out the buy side here, here. This right here, 1, 2, 3 could be a 3 drives pattern. Sell side, we did take out sell side here, but ever since we've kind of been building it in, we did take out the recent sell side. Still very choppy, not exactly sure where it wants to go. I guess I could try to take a chance here. So if I have my entry and my risk here, quite a wide stop that I'm not willing to take with all this choppy action. Unless I get a confirmation fair value gap, I think I'm just going to stay on the sidelines for now. Just going to give this a little bit more time. We are approaching noon, so I may not even want to trade today. All right, and as you can see, it's 12:15. I'm done, not making any trades today. I'm glad I stuck with my intuition. I'm glad I had a neutral bias and wasn't so convinced with this fair value gap, because if I did take it, I would have just sat through this, got stopped out here, and then price is kind of coming down once again. But really, it's not really going anywhere. If you look from about 3 or 4 o'clock here to 12. This was a span of 8 hours, and price really didn't go anywhere. You know, we're closing here kind of where we started at 4 o'clock, and didn't really go for the sell side or the buy side. A lot of just consolidation and choppiness today. So with this compacted price action, I'm expecting that we may get a pretty big move on Tuesday, maybe in the PM session or overnight. But so let's just actually take a look at what happens at the end of the day. But if it does move in the PM session, oh well, not really, you know, my time window. So but it looks, at least from the 1 hour, price didn't really go anywhere. And as you can see, complete consolidation in the afternoon. So price really didn't do anything today. So I'm glad I went ahead and just not traded at all. And let's go ahead and move on to Tuesday. All right, so Tuesday morning, September 24th, and we're starting to get a little bit of movement, right? We were consolidating pretty much all day yesterday in this range. Now, pre-market, we did go up and took out the buy side here. Could we go up some more? Yes, we could go for the buy side up here. So I'm going to give this a little bit more time, but sell side target, relative equal lows here. This is a prime target. This will be a secondary target. And of course, we could go for a final target here. I'm being very conservative, just working off of a very small range, because lately on the higher time frame, if you go to the 4 hour time frame, you can see that we are kind of just in a consolidation, right? We're not really moving too much. So there's no reason to try and be super aggressive, at least at the moment. So now going down to a lower time frame, I'm a little lost. So let me go back up to the 15-minute. We took out the buy side here, potentially going for the buy side up here. But looking at these relative equal lows, I think that is going to be a next prime target. So now going down to the 5-minute, we did create this big displacement, but I'm going to wait for 8:30, maybe even 9:30, see what exactly happens. If we start getting another displacement here without taking out this low, I will be willing to try and take a shot at a short. But if this low gets taken, then I'm going to have to keep waiting. All right, so just after 8:30, so far, not much has happened. Now, I don't really like how we put in relative equal highs here, but technically it is a failure swing. Looking at the 15-minute, we're going in, we went into this fair value gap here, which lines up with this previous swing low. And now we're starting to move away from it, right? Because we have a fair value gap here and a fair value gap here, the low of the fair value gaps here. And you can see that we are starting to move away to the downside, away from these fair value gap, away from the inefficiencies. So going back into the 5-minute, I'm going to go ahead and try to take a chance. I normally don't, you know, take a trade before, well, 10 o'clock. I mean, you've heard me so many times that I want to wait for 9:30, wait for 10 o'clock. But I'm going to go ahead and try to take a shot here. We do have two fair value gaps. Order block here, I'm going to have my stop above the order block. So stop right here and entry. I'm going to go ahead, if this fair value gap remains intact, I'll go ahead and try to take a chance on the very first fair value gap here. I know there is a small volume balance, but this candle's not done forming. I don't really know where, you know, it's going to close at. But hopefully we'll see whether or not whether the volume of balance remains intact or not. But right here is kind of where I'm thinking it's going to be 20 points of risk. I definitely could take 2 contracts, maybe even 3. So yeah, I'm going to try to take a 1% risk, and let's just see how it goes here. All right, so looking at the spreadsheet real quick, and this is the entry here. Still just kept it at the low of this fair value gap. I guess technically the low will be there because of the volume balance, but went ahead and just set the price there. It did line up with this old low. Risk up here. So anyways, with this risk, I'm actually able to take 3 contracts for a little bit less than 1% risk. We'll talk about partials here. Now, I am going to go ahead and take a partial below this low, and then zooming out to the 15 minutes. We can take partials below this relative equal low. That is a prime target. And then we'll see if we can hold on to the other one. We'll see how far it goes on the other one. Probably just aggressively move the stop down and get stopped out should we start moving lower. Hopefully we don't get stopped out here. And I mean, we do have relative equal highs, right? So we could get stopped out here. Maybe this is a little premature. Maybe I should have waited for 9:30. I'm going to go ahead and try to take a chance here. And should we take out this low and start moving down lower, I think I want to aggressively move my stop and try to get break even as soon as possible, because yeah, I mean, I don't really like this relative equal highs. We can easily just kind of wick down here to this fair value gap and then come back up and get stopped out. All right, so unfortunately, we did get stopped out here for a 1% loss. Yeah, a little unfortunate, but it happens. So there we go. And yeah, we'll see. I think we're going to take out these relative equals highs here, and then we'll see if we have displacement again. It is, 9 o'clock. So I'm going to probably wait until 9:30 to see what happens. All right, here we are, 9:30. So we did take out these relative equal highs, did not take out this high. We actually put in another relative equal high. But at 9:30, we had this wick up and we're kind of going down lower. Now, if I was looking at ES, we could have SMT divergence here on the highs. That would be a good factor, to convince me that we may be going lower. But this fair value gap, we'll see whether or not this holds up. I'm not going to take it right away. Want to see a confirmation fair value gap because we could very well just sweep this low or whatever and then come for these relative equal highs. All right, so we chopped around a little bit and then we just dove down lower, taking out the sell side below here and below here. And this one, I'll just adjust the line. Don't think we're going to be looking for these relative equal highs unless we are in a complete reversal, really. Remember, this is let me go back to the 4 hour to show you. This is a weekly fair value gap that we've tapped into before. Looks like we're putting in relative equal highs and we could be going for the sell side now. There is more sell side targets to go for. Remember, especially these relative equal lows. So going down to the 1 hour, displacement down maybe for this low, perhaps this low or this fair value gap, we can still aim for those. Going down to the 15-minute, kind of like doing a top down real quick. And yeah. And going back up. Okay, so we have this massive displacement. Obviously, I don't want to take an entry into here, but if we can retrace into here and give me a confirmation fair value gap, I'll go ahead and take a shot on that second one. All right, so 12:15, my trading window is over. I'm not actually sure if I had the video paused earlier, but I was explaining how right here I thought about entering long, but it's not really part of the model. I don't have a sweep of liquidity. I don't have a sweep of the sell side. I don't have a shift in market structure after that. Well, because I need to have the very first thing in the checklist, right? So because of that, even though I kind of wanted to enter here thinking like price may rally up higher, I ultimately decided that it was not part of the model and I almost got FOMO. You see, that's what FOMO can do to you. You ignore your model, but I did not get FOMO. I went ahead and just canceled the trade and decided to just see what the morning price action looks like. I think going into the next day, depending on whether or not we go above or below this weekly fair value gap, that's going to give us a little bit better of a sense of direction. So let's go ahead and take a look at the end of the day price action, and then we'll head to the next day, see what happens pre-market. So as you can see, more consolidation throughout the rest of the day, and we're pretty much closing at the middle of this weekly fair value gap. So I'm going to go into the next day and see what the morning pre-market action looks like. All right, so Thursday, September 26th, and as you can see, we consolidated yesterday, but overnight we did rally up above the weekly fair value gap. I'm not going to be looking for sell side targets anymore. I'm going to be bullish. So just taking out all these for now, and we'll go up to the 4-hour, 90-day, seeing exactly what's going on. We have all-time high here. I think we could be aiming for that. We do have a high here, but zooming in, you know, I see a lot of the bodies here. So I'm going to go with this high. This is like the closest swing high, although this could also be a target. So we're just going to highlight both of those just in case. And then we are going into a fair value gap, but I'm paying more attention to this weekly fair value gap. Perhaps it can be used as inversion. So let's go ahead and change the color here. So definitely going to have a bullish bias going into Thursday and into Friday. Now on the 1 hour, there's so many fair value gaps here that there's no reason to mark in any of them. I'm just going to keep an eye on this weekly fair value gap. Maybe we come down here for inversion. And buy side, not really seeing anything right now. I'm going to go down to a 15-minute. And I'm still kind of not seeing the buy side. Like we did peak above this high, so we could come down lower. Do have relative equal lows here, so I will mark that out. I think we could have a sweep of that. That could be enough, but kind of thinking we may get a deeper retracement back down into somewhere here close to the upper half of that fair value gap. 8:30, we took out the buy side once again, and you know, thinking about it, overnight we had a pretty big rally. So when the overnight has a pretty big move, I'm expecting the morning session actually to not really be too exciting. Maybe it's more consolidation. So just gonna wait and see if we get any big displacement or not. All right, so finally 9:30, we do have a pretty big displacement to the downside. Took out these relative equal lows as expected. We did, you can see pre-market 8:30, we took out the high and took out the high one more time right here at 9:10, just before the 9:30 opening. We did rally down. Now, I think let's go ahead and use a projection here. So from this high down to this swing low, you can see projection minus 2 standard deviations here, minus 1 is here. If we adjust it for the low right here on the sell side, you can see we have minus 1.5 here, minus 1 down here. Not really, you know, nothing's really resonating with me. So I'm going to jump up to a 15-minute. And, you know, I think the target would be the high of this weekly fair value gap. So going back down to a 5-minute, can I take a short here? So if I have my entry, and we'll risk the high, thinking I don't want this entire gap to get closed in, that's going to be about 50 points of risk. So quite a lot of risk. I think I'm going to wait, see if we can get a confirmation fair value gap. All right, so it looks like the fair value gap kind of closed in a little bit. So now if I have my entry here, and we'll still risk this entire fair value gap, this is going to be about a little bit less than 40 points of risk. So I think this is more reasonable. I'm going to take a trade here, short, just for a feeler, 1 contract only. And I'm going to have a pretty small risk, conservative risk. I don't want to see this entire fair value gap get filled in. You can see that we have consolidation here. We went above it to collect sell stops, and smart money is shorting. This big move down through the consolidation, we could come back into here, but I really don't want to see price go above this consolidation anymore. And this gap here at the high is kind of above the consolidation range. So I'm feeling okay. As for the downside, I'm going to try and take it off. I'm going to try and aim for this weekly fair value gap at the high. But I don't have any clear partial targets. So I think what I'm going to do is try and move my stop loss down quickly, try to get down to break even as quickly as possible. And then I'm just going to keep moving my stop loss down until we get to that weekly fair value gap. All right, so price is starting to move away from my entry. I don't really feel like I want to get in now, because if we've already made it all the way down here, like, you know, close to this low, and then we retrace all the way back here, that's not going to look good for on the short side. Now I could still try for a short. You can see that potentially we're creating a small fair value gap here, so I could have my risk up here, and I could have a short entry down here. This would be 30 points of risk or so. And I'm looking for my target here. That will give me about 1.5 to 1 risk to reward to risk. You know, I'm just going to do one contract. I know it's only 30 points of risk, but just going to do one contract, see if it works out. It's already kind of moving a lot. Going to go below these lows anyways, so may not be the best trade, but let's go ahead and take a shot. All right, and a few minutes later, we did go into the high of the weekly fair value gap. So basically my targets hit, and I got nothing else going on now. So just gonna see what the rest of the morning action looks like. Gonna go back up to a higher time frame to see what's going on. I'm looking for price to use this as inversion. Now that we're back into this weekly higher time frame fair value gap, I think I'm looking for a reversal to the upside. May not happen today, maybe tomorrow, maybe in the PM session. It is Thursday, so Friday we do have one more day to go for the buy side, but I think for the rest of today, I'm going to sell on the sideline and just wait it out. All right, so here's after 5, end of the day action. You can see we went down into this weekly fair value gap, and we consolidated in it throughout lunch, but remember, we only stayed in the upper half. Technically, we do have relative equal lows, so I'm going to go ahead and mark it out. That's maybe significant, but now in the afternoon, we went back up above it, and we're consolidating just above this weekly fair value gap. So I'm looking for this to hold up as support and basically have some displacement to the upside. Now, we could sweep these lows. I would rather we just leave these intact and just leave this fair value gap altogether. All right, so on the 1 hour chart, Friday morning, September 27th. Looking at the buy side targets, we have buy side liquidity there. Sell side, of course, those relative equal lows yesterday, but I don't really want to see price go down there. We do have sell side here. Again, I don't want to see price go down there either. I'd much rather we just start moving away from this weekly fair value gap. So we do have potentially, because this is the 8 o'clock, so at 9 o'clock, we'll see whether or not this fair value gap remains intact. Potentially it could. Let's go down to a 15-minute. If there's any lower time frame inefficiencies I should take a look at, we do have lows here as well. So I'm going to go ahead and mark these out. I know a lot of lines. I'll clean it up after today's done, but I'm going to leave these here. Remember, I don't want these to get taken, so let's go ahead and change it to a different color. All right, so sell side down below here, but I don't want price to actually go down there. It's okay if we sweep these relative equal lows and then go for the buy side here. I actually want to see this target get taken and then keep going up, and then we have more and more buy side targets. But you know, it is Friday, so we could just be consolidating and just kind of finishing the week, maybe in equilibrium in this range here. So we took out the buy side here at 8:30, and then relative equal lows. I think that's going to be a relatively good target to look for. So if we do have civvies, could be looking for this as a sell side target, playing a short range because still a little unsure, but you know what? I'm not going to take a short down here, even though I could. I want to remain bullish. We are above this weekly fair value gap. I want to see a sweep up here and then start heading up higher. All right, so a little bit after 10:30, finally we chopped around a little bit, but we took out the sell side liquidity here. Now 10:30, I still got about 2 hours. So what I want to see is I want to see displacement to the upside. I want to see this high get taken, and perhaps I can go ahead and shoot for a long, aiming for the first partial here. This is going to be the high of day, and then maybe look to see if we can get to that target. Let me just zoom out a little bit to see what that target is. So this will be the high, and then yeah, we could try to aim for that, and I'm going to actually draw in a 1 hour fair value gap here. This could also be a target, so probably another partial or second partial, probably right here. I don't really want to see price go lower. I mean, I don't want to see those sell side gets taken, but It could, and if it does, I think I may have to give it a little bit more time. All right, so 12:15, I am done for today, done for the week. We did not get a fair value gap to the upside. We just continuously trailed down the rest of the morning, took out the sell side down below here as well, but you can see the price action is not pretty. I wouldn't even know where would you get in with the short here. So it is what it is. Let's take a look at the end of day. Again, this week has not been great. Take a look at the spreadsheet real quick. One trade that was for a loss, unfortunately. So another red week. And then at the end of the day, we did eventually go down for the sell side target here. So it does look like, the sell side was where price wanted to move. But going into next week, what can we expect? Well, let's go ahead and take a look at the daily, because we are still above this weekly fair value gap. Okay, so I'm looking for this to remain as an inversion fair value gap. So we do have this week. This is going to be the previous week target. Let's go ahead and remove these right here. Just clean up the chart a little bit. I don't want to pay attention to this. I'm not looking for lower targets. May even remove this. We may revisit this in the future, but as long as we remain above this weekly fair value gap, I'm looking for price to go up higher for these buy side targets. But yeah, we'll see whether or not this is the case going into next week. But that's going to do it this time for this back testing session. Thank you again for joining me. Please like and subscribe. And until I see you guys next time, safe trading.